test. Test 1, 2, 3. going to call to order the City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Amanda, roll call, please.
Tim Petrie. Ashley Malunas. Ed Steckmeister.
Here.
Adam Mohusky.
Here.
Jeff Delkey.
Here.
Coach.
Here.
Bill Leclerc.
Here.
Carla Leclerc.
Here. Number 4 is a consideration of any council member requesting to participate in this meeting via remote location. No one wants to join us via remote location. Bonnie is running a little bit late, should be joining us within a half hour. On to number 5, input from the public. Anyone wishing to speak on something that's on this agenda, something they'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, and state your name and address for the record. Input from the public.
Jeanette Greenwood Kane, Iris Rose Kane, Jason Kane, 1625 24th Street. We were just coming to say that we really enjoy the Front Yard Garden program. This program really supplied not only produce for our family, but it gave us an opportunity to do this as a family. And this little one here was really proud of what she was able to grow. Admittedly, we did break a rule, so I apologize for that. Next year, if we have it again, we will not do that. But she got really excited about corn, so sorry about that, guys. We wanted to just make mention, like, this was a really cool program because it was something we could do as a family. Not only that, I don't think I have to tell anyone that it's a hard economic time for a lot of folks. This allowed us to feed our family with produce pretty much every meal for the last few weeks now that we've got some yields. Not gonna lie, it was a little shaky. Didn't know if we'd have anything. Now I got cucumbers and pickles coming out my ears. If anyone needs any, we do have some here. But I just wanted to take a moment and say, please guys, consider keeping this going. I've lived in Two Rivers my entire life. I love this town. I'm going to stay in this town. And we're raising our daughter here. This program is good for its citizens. In a time that we've already got blighted properties and every other issue that you probably can think about, a front yard garden program is probably the least of our worries. It brings families together. It provides produce, lesser on spending out in the, grocery stores, everything like that. I just think we should continue it. Not only that, but I know that the resources were also a concern for a lot of people. Jason has volunteered. If we need a volunteer to help with any of this enforcement, getting the word out there, even with some of the different items that I think, Darla, you had helped us with, like the welcome pack and everything like that, he'd be more than willing to help with. We want to make sure that this is going to continue for families around here because it is fun and it does do a lot of good. Iris, do you want to add anything? Okay, what do you want to say? Tell them. She did grow corn. That's where we took our front yard photo for her first day of school. But we won't do it next year. That's pretty much all we got. Do you want to add anything?
No, we pretty much covered all that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Input from the public? All right, seeing none, we will go on to council communications, letters, and other communications from citizens that anyone would like to share at this time. Bill.
I was talking to Paul and Mike Leclerc a few days ago, and John Culpa reported to him that the shoaling at the pierheads is down to 6 feet for about 50 feet inside the piers and 50 feet to the outside of the piers. So they're concerned about a new trawler this year, and it's going to have an extra 18 inches of draft compared to the rest of the ones. And they can tell you that in the wintertime when it gets really rough, you'll bottom out. If you do that. And they have bottomed out there, and they got tossed up on the pier once, the North Pier. And after that, they've gone to Manitowoc. But it's, it's really a hassle for them to do that. I think we reached Harbor 3 years ago.
Is that a core dredge?
That is the city, one occasion about 7 or 8 years ago, did it with state harbor assistance grant monies, but it's typically Corps of Engineers. Usually the Corps will lead with a notice to navigation interests, but based on what you just said, Bill, I'll be on the horn with Corps of Engineers Chicago office tomorrow, seeing where things stand there, because we need to be pounding the drum for maintenance dredging. They usually do soundings every so often to see, what the clearance is in the channel. But as we find out on a lot of things, the people that make their living and go in and out of this harbor every day know a lot better than anybody else does.
Other concern, on the icebergs. Also too, that you won't be able to move the iceberg. And another question they had for me was, are we ever gonna put sand south of the piers? Because I guess they really feel that the sand going to the north of the piers is just sitting it there for a while before they go back out front of the piers.
We can raise that issue. We want the Corps to come here from the Chicago office to talk about this harbor design study that we know they have funded. And that's one of the reasons we've been pushing for, is so they could hear from commercial fishermen, the folks at Seagull Marina, and others about what not only the shoaling, but the harbor surge issue with the wave action does. The Corps' official position is their modeling all shows that the grain movement is from south to north, not north to south. It's not what it looks like when you fly over and see the brown river of the harbor, or brown water coming out the harbor and going south. But yeah. I remember Pete Leclerc saying the same thing. They send it north and it ends up right in front of the harbor again.
Okay. Anything else, Bill?
No, that covers it so far.
Okay. Anybody else? Jeff, anything?
Got a couple of them. Another one on Spectrum. Any update?
We had an email from the rep last week, Rick.
Yeah, that was last week, early last week.
Said that they were getting closer. It should be soon. Soon wasn't defined. That's the last we heard.
Yep. And I got another one. Somebody was wondering, they got in one of their, I think it came in their utility bill, that they're going to be getting their water service checked, and not for lead. Andrew, I talked to Andrew about it earlier. Can you come up and explain? You'd probably be able to explain better to her than I could.
So I believe what that letter was for was what we call cross-connection inspection. So one of the programs that the DNR has out there is that we perform residential and commercial cross-connection inspections. We do hire a company right now called HydroCorp to do those inspections. Basically, what they're worried about is if you have a garden hose in the back of your house and it's filling up your swimming pool, if we have an event out in the street with the water main, we could take contaminated water that's in your pool and bring it back into the municipal water supply. That's one of the reasons that we do the inspection. Plumbing code in the last 20 years or so has addressed the issues that we look for, but a lot of the older homes, some of the things weren't done. One of the biggest things that they look for is basically it's a one-way valve on your outside garden spigot, so it'll let water out, but it won't let water back into your home. One other issue that they kind of run into here and there is if you have a boiler system, your boiler also has to have a one-way valve to only let water supply in, so it can't contaminate anything in your home or possibly out in the municipal side. So this is a DNR requirement. People get letters all the time for this. I do get a lot of calls too, so I get it. But the company is legit. We do hire them through the city. It's called HydroCorp. So if you get those letters, if you have any further questions, my number's on the bottom of every one of those as well. Give me a call if you have any more questions.
Scott?
Does it also have to do with Sandpoint wells too?
So
Right, if they're connected up to your house?
you can't have a Sandpoint well in the city anymore?
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
so.
And there's no charge for that either, unless it's.
Correct. So there is no charge for HydroCorp to come to your house. Takes about 15 minutes. Everything that's done there is supplied through the city water utility. The only time that a resident could actually get charged is we do not supply the one-way valve if you have boiler heat. That would be the only way. Otherwise, anything else that's done in the inspection or would go along with it is all paid for through the water utility.
Thank you. She's listening, so I know that she heard that, so.
Okay.
And the other one, I get this one a couple times a year, wondering if we'd be able to put the city manager's report at the end of everything. But I get that one twice a year usually.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I got. Short week.
Anybody else? Tracy?
I also had a comment about when we were getting the Spectrum channel back. And I did say that I would let her know personally when it was gonna happen. So if we could, get notified when it's gonna go on the air the first time, I can let her know ahead of time to get
Believe
her
you,
popcorn and.
We will be shouting
to
it from the
watch.
rooftops and getting the word to council so you can let your constituents know.
Thank
And
you.
we keep reminding Spectrum, these are your customers that are asking for it. The people that want to see it back on cable, subscribe to cable. You'd think that would register. Otherwise, for goodness sakes, log in. But yeah, I mean, people pay good money for cable and the city's paying good money to reintroduce our
Right.
meetings, get them back on cable.
And surprisingly, it's not the same people asking this question every single time either. There's different people constantly, so. There's interest.
Someone tells me if there was revenue associated with it other than it just being there was some revenue. It'd become a little faster.
Probably. Anybody else? I had a couple. One was hoops at Neshoto Park. I did forward that off to Parks and Rec, both the director and maintenance. We all got the sign about the flashing stop sign at 22nd and Monroe, looking to get those stop signs to be flashing stop signs. And also heard from someone that moved here 5 years ago that said how fortunate we are and probably don't even know it with the amount of free concerts and festivals we have in our city. And we should be very thankful, and we should be thanking the businesses that support those, because not every community has that. He was from Sturgeon Bay, and I forget the other city he was from, but there was 2 cities, the last one being Sturgeon Bay, of which they don't have nearly as many festivals or concerts in their parks. And that's something that we do a really good job at. So he wanted me to pass that along. So I'm doing that. On to 7, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anyone have anything they want to report on there? Darla.
Okay, for Main Street, they are still looking for volunteers for Ethnic Fest. So please, if you're interested, give our Main Street office a call and sign up for it. The Two Rivers Main Street Fall Wine Walk is going to be on Friday, October 27th from 5 to 8:30. And it's giving people the option of beer or wine sampling. Tickets are $30 for participants to join the event. Tickets will be sold online or at Seeds and Beans on Washington Street and also the Main Street office. And we wanted to just let you know what's going on for this year's Christmas parade. It's now the Two Rivers Hometown Christmas Parade of Lights, and that will be towards the end of November. It's on the 25th. And Main Street is trying to take the Christmas parade up a notch and making it a parade of lights. And it looks like the attendance to that continuously grows, and the participants, there's more participants typically year by year. So I think that with the addition of lights, it's really going to be fantastic. And also new this year is there's going to be judging. They'll have 3 categories, best use of lights, best band, and judge's choice, and they'll have trophies for all 3. So that's what's going on with that. For Environmental Advisory Board, we're getting closer to our very first program that's going to be over at the library. And I don't have the date right in front of me, but in October, that'll be our first one. Brian Delman, who's out of our electric department, will be there talking to you about renewable sources of energy. What else do you have? Oh, ways that you guys can conserve energy and some other information that would be very beneficial to the residents of the city. So that's going to be in October. And then November, we're going to have one that is going to be presented by Mike Mathis from our Parks and Rec. And it's going to deal with the status of our parks. what we've been doing, what's coming up, and it'll give our residents a better idea and a clearer idea as to what to expect in the future. So that one's going to be pretty interesting, and that'll be a November date. The other thing is the front yard vegetable gardening, and we'll talk about that later on tonight.
Anybody else? All right, city managers report, Greg.
Okay, first up, I'm pleased to say we do have some invited guests here tonight, as the agenda identifies. Our Two Rivers police officer, Amanda Verhelst, and her daughter, Grayson Audrey Bailey. Tonight really is meant to be a celebration of Grayson and her recent adoption. So I would invite them, the two of them, along with any other family members and friends, because that might be the whole audience. There's a big supporting cast here tonight. To come up to the podium, and then I'll defer to Council President Wahusky, who has shepherded this through to bring the proclamation to council tonight. So Amanda and daughter, welcome.
All right, so we will go ahead. We will read this proclamation, and then we will look for a vote on that, and then we'll let Grayson talk. All right? How does that sound? You got a speech all prepared? Maybe? All right. Proclamation declaring September 5th, 2023 as Grayson Aubrey Bailey Day. Whereas March 3rd, 2016, Abigail Jenkins was born in Florida to Laura Jenkins. And whereas 2021, Abigail and Lauren moved to Two Rivers, Wisconsin to be closer with family, including her great-grandparents. And whereas on April 6th, 2022, Abigail's mom passed away unexpectedly. Fortunately, Amanda was part of the police department who took care of Abigail at the police department for the next 5 hours. And whereas Abigail was then referred to Human Services, and days later, Amanda reached out wanting to stay connected. And whereas on March 29th, 2023, the courts ruled Abigail could be up for adoption as no family member came forward to adopt her. And whereas on May 19th, Abigail was permanently placed with Amanda, where she then decided to move to Two Rivers to keep Abigail in the Two Rivers school system. And whereas on August 14th, 2023, Judge Dietz at the Manitowoc County Courthouse declared Abigail was formally adopted by Amanda and granted a legal name change to Grayson Aubrey Bailey. And be it further resolved that the City Council of Two Rivers declares this day, September 5th, 2023, as Grayson Aubrey Bailey Day as our newest citizen, dated this 5th day of September, 2023. Congratulations. You're very welcome.
It's a very short speech,
Oh, that's okay.
but she would like to say thank you, everybody, for your support, and she's happy that Two Rivers is her new home.
We are so glad to have you. Let's vote on this proclamation here real quick, and then we're going to send you right around the council to shake our hand because we're so excited to have you here. Okay?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Thank you, Tracy. Seconded
will
by
second.
Scott. Council discussion. See none. This is a roll call vote. Amanda.
Pat Steckmeister.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie.
All right, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Cool.
You're welcome. Amanda. Yep. One more time. What a great thing.
Kind of hard to top that one over the balance of the report.
Yeah, good luck.
Yes. City managers report for tonight? By the way, you're all welcome to stay for the whole meeting, or if you have to depart, we understand. Thanks for sharing this important moment. City managers report for tonight. First off, we'll thank Bill Rohr for this beautiful aerial shot of the best beach in Wisconsin. I think a few people affirmed that this past weekend. Nashota, although that shot certainly wasn't taken this past weekend because there's parking spaces and room on the beach. It's nice to have a full room and they're well behaved and happy. We don't usually get crowds like this unless we've really ticked some people off. So it's very nice. What an event. Okay, so updates on ongoing recruitments. Public Works maintenance worker interviews are being scheduled. The application passed on that, Amanda, on Public Works maintenance worker?
They have, and interviews are scheduled for this week.
Okay, very good. So we have applicants, we have people worth interviewing, that's all good. We are still advertising, accepting applications for the part-time position of building inspector. Jane Drager, our current inspector, has given us notice that she'll be done working in the position on October 26th. We appreciate her service. We also appreciate her giving us a pretty reasonable time frame because that's not an easy position to fill. Lincoln Street, our one significant street project this year, as the modified sign there says, almost done. Last week, the contractor placed sidewalk and driveway approaches. They began placing topsoil. I asked the Public Works Director if it really was topsoil, not break or run gravel, because we kind of see that sometimes. But assured me it's pretty good looking topsoil. Roadway open to local traffic via side streets going into the Labor Day weekend. This week, the contractor plans to complete placement of any pedestrian ramps at the corners, topsoil and seeding work, and we expect by the end of this week, we will the street will simply be opened up fully to vehicle and pedestrian traffic. Room tax update. I didn't get my request into finance in time to get the graphic we usually share, but I can tell you that on a budget year basis, collections this year through August, and that represents actual money collected by the hotels, motels, and vacation rentals through July because they've got a month grace period to turn their dollars in. Total $190,031. That's up from just over $164,000 at this time last year. So continued strong growth in our room tax revenues year to date, up about 15.66%. You'll remember last year we ended the year at about 290,000. So I think we'll eclipse that yet again this year. The Explore Two Rivers Incorporated Board, the board in charge of the 501c6 that is in charge of our tourism marketing and development activities, next meets on Tuesday of next week, 7:30 a.m. here at City Hall in the council chambers. Those are public meetings. There is the opportunity for input from the public on each of their agendas. So folks are welcome to get up early in the morning and come to that meeting. Likewise, the city's Room Tax Commission, which has fiduciary responsibility overseeing the collection of room tax revenues and budget recommendations as far as forwarding those to and contracting with Two Rivers, Explore Two Rivers, Inc., meets the following Tuesday, September 19th. That's at 10 a.m. in the committee room here at City Hall. That likewise, of course, a public meeting of one of our city bodies, and that will be posted in advance. We just remind you of the 2 Minutes with Two Rivers podcast, which typically airs weekly on Thursday mornings on WOMT and Lake 98.1, and then is posted to explore2rivers.com and community social media. We're looking forward to the Explore Two Rivers Board really getting into some strategic planning, goal setting for the coming year to build on the foundation that they and staff have laid this year. As far as various projects over at Nashota Park, the wiring has been pulled, the power cable's been pulled for installation of new lights along the pedestrian corridor that runs from Pierce Street to the back of the beach concession stand. That's a heavily traveled area. It's not had functioning lighting for several years, and that's being done in-house as a cooperative project between the electric utility and Parks and Rec, with funds provided in the capital budget for the current year. Earlier this summer, the old concrete light posts were taken out. Right next door, the new Nashota Park playground area is at about the halfway point Public Works crews have completed their excavation and site grading work, prepping the site for the equipment installation. The perimeter sidewalk with pads for benches, nice donor opportunity there for people who love to give benches, and that'll be, I think, 8 more benches, Mike, arrayed around the playground. And right now the schedule calls for play equipment installation to begin next week, Monday, September 11. That'll take about 3 weeks. That will wrap up, hopefully, weather with us, the first week in October with pouring of the poured in place resilient safety surface and our new roughly $400,000 investment by this city in a new destination playground, fully handicap accessible, will be completed. That's why we're scheduling a grand opening for Sunday, October 15, and that will be from 10 to noon that Sunday morning at the park with free donuts and cider. Cool City Brewing on site, offering coffee, drinks for sale with all proceeds to support the park. I think Cool City's also planning one of their fundraising nights where a percentage of sales goes for further improvements at Neshota. And be assured your capital budget as presented by my office before too long here to the Finance Committee will anticipate providing resources to continue the good work at Neshota, implementing the master plan that was adopted earlier this year. We need to build on that good work. So mark your calendars. We'll get more reminders out Sunday, October 15 in the AM. Pleased to announce and share the police department's good news that the WPS Foundation has awarded a $1,600 grant to the police department bike patrol program. That's through WPS's Rewarding Responders Grant, which has distributed $75,000 to different agencies around the state. Here in Two Rivers, the intent is those grant monies will help with revamping the PD's bike patrol program. That may not be all the funding that's needed because the hope is to go with 2 new, I'll call them human-powered bikes, but also there's great interest in the purchase of an e-bike for patrols at festivals and events, but also so the PD can get out on the trails and enforce some of the ordinances that we hear about out there and interact with trail users. So watch for some more fundraising activity in support of the bike patrol unit. If we could train one of those dogs to ride on a bicycle, I'm sure the money would just come flowing in because everybody loves the dogs. Work on that, Chief, if you would, please. That's right. Yeah. Parks and Rec, Mike Mathis had shared at last staff meeting that some of the registration numbers for fall programs are coming in very well. So we wanted to share that with council. NFL youth flag football for 2nd through 4th graders, 73 kids signed up for that program. Pee Wee flag football, K through 1st grade, 34 signups. We are offering fall swim lessons, levels 1, 2, 3. Those classes are presently full with 8 participants each, and Rec is working to offer more sessions contingent on scheduling of the pool and having the staff to do it. So we are still in the business of swim lessons in Parks and Rec. Fall soccer has 22 registrations. Water department updates. Andrew didn't put this one at the top of his list, but I did remind folks that September 1, the 8% rate increase as authorized, recommended by staff, authorized by council, took effect. That is the first increase since September 1 of typo there, 2018. It has been 5 years. The department has also started their unidirectional hydrant flushing, and you'll see operators out there flushing for the next several weeks. That's a systematic, as the name implies, unidirectional flushing to remove the largest amount of sediments and hopefully have the best benefit when it comes to lead and copper reduction as well. The crews are on site repainting the interior of the east side tower right now. I asked Andrew if we might get some photos or video of that because not too many of us have been inside the towers. Some of you in your misspent youth might have been up on the tower. I wouldn't recommend that either, but we'll share that. And part of the job there will also be applying the city logo to the exterior of the tower. We held off on that last time the tower was painted, as you might have noticed. The orthophosphate chemical feed system for lead and copper corrosion control, as you know, mandated by Wisconsin DNR to hopefully improve our lead and copper control in the distribution system, is complete and will be tested for operation and placed into service by mid-September, and that's in advance of the end of September deadline. We do intend to petition DNR and continue pursuing not adding the current chemical that we add to the water for lead and copper control, because this is supposed to be a better chemical. Why we need to do both, we don't feel we've gotten a good answer to, but we're complying with the regulators and what they feel is in the best interest of the water consuming public. Staff at the water utility are reaching out to customers to participate in upcoming lead and copper testing, and that's going to require 60 homes to participate in that collection of samples. And in-house work continues on upgrades to the lab facilities. City staff have done all the work on this project, and they'll be done shortly. I know Andrew has updated the utilities committee on these, but if council members have any questions, like Jeff asked Andrew up earlier, certainly feel free. Upcoming events, we'd like to share that Carrie Red Arrow is working with Woodland Dunes Nature Center for a hike and brew event this Friday, September 8th, 5 to 8 p.m. Craft brews, wine samplings, food, live music, bucket raffles, nature trivia. So this is for folks 21 and older. Tickets $40 a person to support the good work out at Woodland Dunes. Public education and preservation activities on the 1,500-acre preserve. We'd also remind you that next Saturday, there's the opportunity to walk for a good cause. It's the annual Pig to Pig Walk organized by Tietz's Piggly Wiggly.
Yes.
This event
This event
isn't happening?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
We
sharing.
called Pinky Movie today,
Oh.
and they never even scheduled it.
This jury will disregard the city manager's comments. Oops. You can still walk from Manitowoc to Two Rivers. You could go pick and save to pick and save. Wrong. Okay, thank you. Oh, we're on autopilot there. Geez, I got all excited and skipped a bunch of stuff. How did that happen? That's all right. There we go. Disregard. Back out at Woodland Dunes Nature Center on Saturday, they do have their fall star party. You can look at various constellations in the night sky. Bring your own telescope, but if you need help figuring out how to set it up, they'll be able to help you. Obviously, weather dependent and sky conditions dependent. Advanced registration. Our whole area is super excited to be hosting the Studebaker International Meet, organized through the Wisconsin Region Studebaker Drivers Club. Their main locus for activities will be out at the expo for this 59th annual international meet. But they will be venturing all over the county for visits to Lambeau Field, different attractions in Manitowoc and Two Rivers, including the Wood Type and Printing Museum. There is a Studebaker parade Wednesday night that leaves the UW Green Bay Manitowoc campus at 6 o'clock and heads up the drive to historic Washington House here in downtown Two Rivers. So I know there were a lot of folks signed up for that. Studebaker, some really classic, amazing designs, classic American cars. So thanks to all the local chapter folks involved in hosting this. Be sure to roll out a welcome for those guests in the area. That is happening. Remind you also, Saturday, September 16, Ethnic Festival brought to you by Two Rivers Main Street. Schedule of entertainment is now out there. I know there are some other activities at various downtown businesses in conjunction with Ethnic Festival. Two Rivers Historical Society, you can now go over to Washington House and take a look at the various offerings. This is a silent auction with bids being taken now through September 16, Ethnic Festival Saturday. Some really amazing artwork. You see both Bucky and some other work on display there. And if you want to look at one from 2 years ago in the city manager's office, there's a beautiful Two Rivers custom chair that was part of the last fundraiser. They've got a goal of raising $10,000 to help with further upgrades at historic Washington House, which, by the way, is one of our better locations for sales of Two Rivers logo wear lately. They're moving a lot of merchandise over there. They've done a great job reorganizing their collections as well. Kudos to the Friends of the Two Rivers Senior Center, which donated a used van to Ascend Services. You have Heather Eilenfeld, our Senior Center Director, shown there, along with Sid Kemp and Deanna Jeske from Ascend. The Friends have also funded, as I think Bill has shared in the past, a second trust car for use at the Senior Center. So Friends Group doing amazing things. Both with the trust car here and with an area agency whose goals are seen as closely aligned with those of the Friends of the Senior Center. What the devil did I just do? Okay. Got some website report dates there shared by Lisa, my assistant, as far as views during the month of August. You see a total of, on the city website, 35,382 views, and that ranges from high of the general Two Rivers, Wisconsin homepage. Neshota Park coming in strong at 2163, almost a tie with the calendar. Explore Two Rivers, 1568, and so on is shown there. Some stats on average engagement time. It looks like they spend the most time on the calendar and searching. So there's a count there. One thing that's gotten some social media play just over the weekend, and I thought warranted a little clarification. Part of it might be because we as a city shared on our Facebook page a notice saying if you get a change in assessment notice, you'll have X period of time to appeal it to the assessor during open book. You can go on to Board of Review. That does not mean every property in the city is getting a change in assessment notice. Only 88 were sent. Those were out of 213 building permits pulled in 2022. Our contract assessors at Accurate Appraisals reviewed those, looked at permits that appeared to be the type that could impact market value, and have made adjustments to 88 properties total in the city. Now, understand that it's anticipated that in 2024, yeah, we as a city will, in all likelihood, be doing a citywide revaluation. We're due for that. We're only at about assessing at about 60% of market value, given considerable appreciation in the values of existing properties in town. So we're under some statutory requirements to do a reval, but this is not a reval year. And when we get to a reval year, I just hasten to add, and every city that does reval says this, that doesn't necessarily mean your taxes are going up. It's a big exercise in equity, which we'll talk about a lot more between now and then. But it's really intended to make sure that assessments reflect market value and that there's equity or parity in how properties are assessed. That generally means, though, that some go up, some go down, or some don't go up as much as the overall percentage. So some people's taxes do go up when you do a reval, some go down. And as I tried to point out to somebody on Facebook this weekend, which isn't the best media for explaining things in any detail, at least from my perspective, it's not perfect. And when it comes to somebody's taxes at the end of the day going up and someone's going down, that's the system that was created by our state of Wisconsin and just about every other state in the country, that nobody likes property taxes, and that's how we finance local government. So thank you. It'd be real nice if the state would look at some alternatives, but right now local government is stuck with property taxes, our primary funding mechanism. And it is based on the value of a single asset, or unless you own multiple properties, but for most of us, our home. And those assessments hit pretty close to home. And yeah, if you take care of your property and you invest in it and you fix it up, and you're next door to somebody who lets their property go to heck, ultimately you're going to pay more taxes than they do. And I'm not sitting here to argue that's fair or not fair. That's how it is. So that's all I had to say at this point on that one. And mercifully, that ends my report with a beautiful shot taken by yours truly. I'll claim credit on this one of sunrise on the one morning this summer. I got up early enough to see the sun come up over the lake. I got up early. I just don't leave the house. So thank you. That's my report.
Pickleball tournament, Saturday, September 9th, 9 to 5. That's still happening, Mike?
That's canceled.
That is canceled. Got it. Okay, it was on the agenda, but we
Oh,
didn't talk
I'm sorry about
it,
that.
so-
I pulled the slide and forgot
Got
to
it.
point that
For
out.
registration, we're gonna try to redo it.
Okay. Perfect. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't missed. All right, on to 9, the consent agenda. Under A, minutes of meetings, we have 2. There's a plan commission meeting of July 10th and August 14th of 2023. Also, police and fire commission meeting of August 24th, 2023. Recommended action is a motion to receive and file. And finally, under B, summary of verified bills for the month of August 2023 for $4,219,888.21. Recommended action, motion to receive and file. The recommended action for the consent agenda as a whole is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Looking for a motion
Make that
on the
motion.
consent agenda. Thank you, Jeff. Second by Tracy. Anyone have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Anyone opposed? All right, on to 10, city council formal items. Under A, we have a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $526,696 of water system revenue bonds, Series 2023, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto, safe drinking water loan program funding for 2023 projects. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. Greg, some background, please.
Yeah, if I could, I apologize, but I just recognized going into the meeting tonight that while you have a complete copy of the closing documents for this borrowing as provided by our bond counsel at Quarles and Brady, you do not have the resolution. So here is the resolution, and this is apologize again. This is the safe drinking water one that is on tonight. And I may, would you like to take a 5-minute recess while I get you the right resolution? My fault. I pulled the one that had come in more recently for sewer system improvements. So my apologies. We didn't catch that Friday. The agenda went up. My mistake.
I mean, we do have the information in front of us. If you want to just read the resolution, I think we should be okay with it. Everything that's going to be in that resolution is already in our packet. Correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a
that's usually how it goes.
It's a lengthy multi-page resolution. If you don't mind, just 2
Okay.
minutes, I can have it in front of you.
You're on the clock.
Okay, gotcha. 3.
What's that?
Yeah, if you would procedurally, if the council wants to consider that out of order, they could continue to the other items on the agenda and then we'll bring it back.
Good, because we do not have a motion on this, so we will circle back to A. Let's move on to B. So we're going to go out of order in our packets. We're going to move on to B, which is the creation of ordinance 9-4-6 regarding failure to act to prevalent sexual assault of a minor by adult responsible for minors' welfare, and section 9-4-7 regarding crimes against sexual morality. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. And
Chief and Attorney Thurmer, if needed, can address this. You do have in front of you a revised version of the ordinance, which inserted a severability paragraph at the end of each of these two subsections, that being both the section related to, sexual assault of a minor and prostitution, 946 and 947. Again, severability section, Jack can explain it more eloquently than I, but basically if any portion of the ordinance is found to lack validity, the balance of the ordinance language would stand. We typically have severability language in our ordinances.
Yeah, so I think quite a while ago, this has been brought up by several council members, probably for the last couple of years anyway. Since 2017, I believe, Manitowoc began with a prostitution ordinance. There were a couple very known stings that took place, and that's when I think everybody came to the realization of just how prevalent it was with the multitude of arrests. I know we've also had council requesting additional tools as it relates to drugs. Prostitution many times goes hand in hand with the drug issue. I've brought also with me Detective Jake Glazer, if you have any questions as far as how that goes. So what I was looking to do was really mirror what has seemed to be very successful in Manitowoc with their prostitution ordinance. And I would also argue that by, in essence, mirroring that, we're also not just taking on a problem that was pushed out of their city, which tends to happen. In addition to that, I think along with that is the second portion of that is the failure to act to prevent sexual assault by a minor. Much of that is related to the human trafficking part. So a lot of times you have someone that may in fact be guilty of prostitution. However, there's many things that may have led up to that. And human trafficking is one of those that has multifaceted issues there, many times which are hard to prosecute in a circuit court setting under maybe like a conspiracy case, but there's usually in a trafficking situation a multitude of different levels that took part in trafficking those said juveniles that are ultimately victims, not necessarily the guilty portion as far as prostitution. So many different aspects there as far as what we were looking at. I guess that's a good beginning.
That last comment, it does give you another route to go if circuit court isn't the most appropriate or receptive route.
Correct. And I think in both cases, there's many times where something is passed back down for ordinance violation rather than trying a criminal case.
So essentially, this doesn't supersede what the state already has in place. It just gives us the opportunity that if it doesn't go to circuit court, it can go to municipal court.
Prostitution is nearly identical.
Okay.
I think the issues that Attorney Bruce brought up with the severability, that's where you do have some concerns with the vagueness of the failure to act to prevent minor responsibilities.
Severability provision is a pretty typical clause in ordinances whenever constitutional issues may arise. And looking at some of the language, having knowledge of what tends to do, things like that, kind of a defense lawyer raise issues regarding whether or not that ordinance language is too vague to satisfy a constitutional test. So I'm not objecting at all to the ordinance. I just think it's prudent to put the severability language in there. Should a court have difficulties with certain portions of the ordinance, it would allow the balance of the ordinance to survive and be effective.
And that is what we added under E, is that correct? Which was.
Yeah, it was added in actually both. The failure to act.
And then under 5.
And the prostitution.
On the last page, number 5, That is the document that was in front of us. The document we got in our packets did not have that in there, but that ordinance language was changed to the document that was in front of us when we arrived in chambers. All right, looking for a motion on this.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Scott. Seconded by
Second.
Tracy. All right, perfect. Any council discussion? All right, seeing none, this will be a roll call vote. Amanda?
Jeff Dilke. Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. Bonnie Shimounis.
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister.
Aye.
Adam Mohusky.
All right, that brings us to the C, ordinance amending section 9-8-8 of the municipal code pertaining to separation of adult entertainment businesses from certain facilities. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. Ben?
Yeah, in this case, I was simply looking to stay parallel again with what Manitowoc City has just recently done to further restrict with the 500 to 1,000 feet. And then in looking at what they had listed for those restrictions, fairly matching. And those corrections were listed on that ordinance that you received.
What was the distance before?
They had 500 beforehand and went to 1,000, and I believe we also had 500 and went to 1,000, and that should be on those corrections.
And we've added a couple of uses where those
Yeah, I think for
separation
instance,
requirements.
library was not listed on ours, but it was listed on theirs, so I added that. And I think senior living facility was also listed on theirs, and I added that.
And licensed establishments.
Oh, they also had the not next to a licensed establishment. That one I think is also important if we have, it's kind of a circumventing tool. I know when I was in the area of Juneau County, they had, for instance, Chubby's entertainment area that could not have alcohol at that time, but then they just put up a bar next to it so that you could, in essence, do the same thing. So I guess I'm just looking at that would circumvent what the intention is of not doing so, but if there's other concerns, I'm open to those too.
When Greg asked me to review this earlier today, and I invite any comments, Chief, or you have, Mr. Thurmer. It brought to mind the council's consideration of the adult entertainment ordinance itself. And one of the legal issues we ran into there related to whether or not an ordinance is broad enough effectively as a practical matter to prevent any adult entertainment ordinance within a municipality. In that case, under the First Amendment, an ordinance like that may have a problem. I certainly haven't looked at this. I don't know if 1,000 feet as opposed to 500 forecloses the balance or significant or all of the city, but I at least wanted to raise the issue.
I was involved with, I'm currently prosecuting for City of Manitowoc too. And I was involved with, actually, Gold Diggers to one strip club on Washington Street lost their liquor license. I handled that for them. I was involved with talking to the current city attorney about their new ordinance as far as where they can put one. They did look at a map, and there are several places that the strip club could go. We have not done that yet, but we could do that with and see where they could put one to make sure there is somewhere in the city.
So would that be more relevant to postpone this and take a look to make sure that we're not allowing it? Because, I mean, we're obviously not that big. We got a lot of these facilities that could be something that we actually run into, and it could be coming right back to us again.
I don't think we would run into it that fast. I think if it would be up to a place that wants to come in to raise the issue and then take it to court. So, I mean, we could adopt it and it may never, ever be an issue.
Shouldn't our goal though be not to go to court?
Even if it went to court, that doesn't mean we lose. It's just like most things we do.
Right, but there comes a cost to that. Our goal is to not go to court.
I think that was a consideration. A similar discussion happened at the Manitowoc Council, from what I gleaned, at least, as far
I
as
would,
that
I would
goes.
much rather see that there's a place for them to go as one voting member than to not have someone come here and try to sue us over it and then have to go to court for it. I think that can easily be done, to take a map of the city and make sure, as Jack pointed out correctly, that it's not something that we can't do.
If that's the pleasure of the council, I think a tabling or a referral to staff to do
You
the
can table it,
necessary
'cause-
mapping work. It will take some time to make sure we identify each of the types of land uses or establishments, and then, with some help
We do
from
not have a motion, so we
engineering.
can go ahead and table that. What's that?
That the city staff will find, create a map with locations.
We don't have a motion on the table as of right now, so we could just, okay,
And the city staff would create a map showing locations where establishments could be built or created.
okay. Seconded by Scott. Thank you. Council discussion? Yes.
I had a question.
Yep.
It references adult entertainment business, not limited to adult cabaret, which in my mind, that's going to be your performances, I would think.
I'd imagine.
I'm looking at you.
There are definitions in the
Right.
ordinance.
So, because I'm
I
just
can look that
thinking,
up for you.
okay, because I'm just thinking of what does that actually mean? An adult establishment, would that include like adult bookstores? It doesn't have to necessarily be a, thank you. I didn't know if I could say that in public.
Okay, you'll look that up. I think Bonnie also had a question.
That stuff was in there with adult-related materials and whatnot, and like frontal nudity and different things addressed in that ordinance.
Okay, so it covers pretty much everything.
The thing is, if somebody wanted to come here, we can't stop them, correct? We had an adult entertainment or some bar somewhere. They wanted to put that into their bar. And I never I remember there was a lot of people writing to the council not wanting it, almost as many as for ATVs. Almost. But I'm just saying that we can't prevent it, correct?
Well, you can in certain areas, but that's what Attorney Bruce is stating, is that you can't make it so restrictive that you can't have one anywhere.
That's why we're gonna go back and see if the 1,000 feet allows them to be anywhere in the city.
Oh,
Based on being
Oh,
1,000
okay.
feet from all these senior elderly, medical clinics, hospitals, place of worship, schools, everything that's kind of listed here. To see where those places are and if there's anything within 1,000 feet that they could actually go. If not, it's too restrictive and we could get sued, which we're trying to prevent.
I guess what we would have to do is we'd have to look at our current ordinance as well versus that one to see. One is our first one, too restrictive, I guess. And then how does it compare to the second one?
I thought that was checked on back when it was adopted, the 500 feet thing.
It's ringing a bell. I know we looked at it with the sex offender residency ordinance, which similarly, this discussion was had, you don't want to make it so broad that it leaves no geography in the city.
And that's where I would agree with Attorney Bruce, is we've had those in the state with sexual offenders where places were trying to restrict it so much that it would just kick it to another jurisdiction.
I remember from our first discussion of this, the policy issues behind the adult entertainment ordinance. There's some well-documented research that has held up in court about the negative impacts of adult entertainment, yada, yada. So that separation requirement as a concept is solid, but just, it's kind of like saying you can't do anything within a 20-mile radius of City Hall within the city limits. Well, de facto, that means you can't do it. So that's what I'm hearing a concern about. We can do it. It'll take a little time. I'm not going to guarantee it's top priority to be on the next agenda.
I don't think that it is top priority.
We'll be
whenever it gets
faster
done.
than the cable company. I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
I mean, we have an ordinance on the books. It's just updating it, so to speak, so.
Yes, and I'll admit, I was just trying to be a little
Sure.
proactive
Yep.
when I came
Yep.
across these other ones to try to push something through if we could to stay consistent again.
Sure.
My biggest thing is that I don't want somebody else's problem to become our problem.
Nope, I don't either. I don't
There
like
is a definition of adult entertainment as any exhibition of any motion picture, live performance, display, or dance of any type, which has a significant substantial portion of such performance or is distinguished or characterized by an emphasis on specified anatomical areas or any actual or simulated performance of sexual activity. So there is that. There's also a definition of an adult establishment, which would relate to an arcade or a bookstore. Things of that nature. We may want to look at the definitions to make sure that they're consistent in the initial ordinance 984 and 988, because I don't see a definition of adult entertainment business itself in it. But my thought would be that it's directed to or meant to relate to an actual showing, probably a live performance or maybe arguably videos, as opposed to
Any other council discussion before we take this to vote to table? Seeing none, all in favor to table indicate by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We will skip over D. That is not ready for prime time, from what I'm being told, so we will take that up at a future council meeting.
Yeah, we want some more time for review by both our prosecuting attorney and our general counsel. And we want to look at some outstanding litigation elsewhere in Wisconsin about a hotel licensing ordinance. But again, I think this is consistent with the intent that's been expressed at council in the past, that just as we, for individual vacation rentals, have licensing and the ability to assure compliance with local ordinance requirements through the ability to revoke licenses, that something similar might be applied to our congregate tourism housing facilities or hotels, motels. But this one, as the president said, not quite ready for prime time. We'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
I would just add too that was in line with direction of council, that we worked on that, but I think that it's important to table it too.
Brought up. On to E, authorizing resolution, funding application for urban forestry grant and urban forestry catastrophic storm grant programs. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. Greg, some background on that.
Well, we have a current urban forestry grant through DNR that is assisting with an inventory of trees on streets and other public properties. Also is providing some tree planting dollars and staff training dollars. This would be for a new application, which Mike Mathis might be able to fill you in a little bit more on the aims with that application. This is a requirement that the council go on record authorizing that application. Thank you, Mike.
This is preparing us for when our tree inventory is complete, because we have a forester from Blue Stem Forestry that's completing the inventory right now and a management plan for us. So once that inventory is done and she makes her recommendations about what we should be doing with our urban forest, I want to be prepared to come back for another grant next year to continue working on ash trees. Initial kind of comment from the forester was that we have a lot of overhead utilities, and so we could be doing work in that regards of trying to work on trees and getting them out of overhead utilities, make us more resilient as a community, focusing on more tree planting, things like that. So continuing to manage ash trees and take up any management suggestions that the forester makes for us as well. It's nice because we have our urban forestry and tree planting funds on an annual basis that can be nicely used as match for these grants, so it works out really well. So yeah, not quite sure yet until the inventory is done, but hopefully continuing the good work that we've got going on City Forest.
All right, looking for a motion on that. Thank you, Darla. Seconded by Bill. Thank you. Council discussion. Yes,
I was
Bonnie.
just wondering, is this a specific amount or whatever we can afford? Because we have to pay half, right?
Correct. Though it's a 50-50 match with the state. And so if we could do up to $50,000. This last year, we had plenty in urban forestry and our tree planting fund that was budgeted dollars to do the full 50-50 match up to 50,000. At this point, I haven't written a grant. I don't know how much I'll request yet, but it's very likely I'll go for the full amount again with Greg's guidance, of course, as we get into budget season. But yeah, it'll likely be a 50-50, $50,000 grant.
Any other questions? All right, see none, roll call vote. Amanda? I believe we did, yes. I thought it was Darla and Bill. That's okay.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. Bonnie Shimalunas.
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister.
Aye.
Adam Mahusky. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that. On to F, Pilot Front Yard Garden, recommendations from the Environmental Advisory Board meeting of July 18th, 2023, and the Plan Commission meeting of August 14th, 2023, regarding extension of pilot program to 2024. Environmental Advisory Board recommends continuing the program. Plan Commission recommends ending the program with the stipulation that planting in movable pots be permitted. The recommended action here is going to be council discretion. And you all have the memos in your packets of both meetings, of which way the votes went. I know I'm part of the Plan Commission. Tracy and Darla are on EAB. And do you have background other than that?
I guess the only thing I'd want to share, council members probably recall that there was a zoning ordinance amendment previously approved by council that authorized a one-year pilot program. I think anticipating there'd be a decision coming out of that to either change the ordinance or not. The alternative, of course, would be to allow more time for the pilot program. That would mean going back into the zoning ordinance with another amendment because the earlier authorization was specific to a 2023 pilot program. So that's where we are. Plan Commission has to, by statute, provide council with advice or recommendations regarding proposed zoning ordinance changes. That was the 5-1 vote of Plan Commission that it recommended not continuing the pilot, but as Adam said, recommends that basically produce gardening in containers be allowed in front yard areas. That might be the subject of a future zoning code amendment to make it crystal clear. Environmental Advisory Board has recommended continuing the program for another year to allow additional marketing and outreach, and so more people can become aware of and maybe participate in the program. So with that, I'll stand back and
Sure.
let the
I
debate
can
begin.
speak briefly on the Plan Commission, being at that meeting and on that board. I know we had talked about, it's been the state of Plan Commission, many different members throughout time, that they, as a body, never wanted the front yard gardens. We did go along with it with some changes after Darla created a very nice ordinance to get this thing through, or a pilot program, I should say, to become an ordinance possibly one day. And seeing all the problems that we do have already in the city of Two Rivers with terrace areas, with people in their yards and maintaining it, and you see corn and pumpkins and all this obnoxious stuff growing in people's yards, and the amount of junk and enforcement that it has come to, the staff time it's taking Matt and his crew has become a little bit more than what they anticipated as well. That the Plan Commission did decide to vote it down, but to allow people with pots to be able to grow that, because they are removable. They're movable. You can put them in the front yard when the sun's there. You can take them back. They can easily be moved. So they're not something that's going to be obnoxious all the time or cause problems. We did talk to Tracy. She was at the meeting. She didn't know at that time, but didn't think there was anyone that had the raised gardens. It sounds like there might be one person that has a raised garden. I know I said at that meeting, and I would still stand by that today, that if anyone put the time and effort to put that raised bed in, I would think that they ought to be grandfathered in for as long as they live at that property. And I would move forward with the pots to be permitted in the front yard to grow when the sun's in the front yard, if that's the only place that they have sun. Again, going back to the fact that we have a cemetery that has a lot of success with growing produce in that area. And I think it's a very small fee, is it not, Mike? Like $20 or something like that? And that pretty much includes, that's your space. They have water. It's all right there for you. It's highly successful. There's a lot of people out there. We have room to grow that program. Talked to many people that have gardens out there. I shouldn't say many. I talked to 3 that have gardens out there that have grown a ton of produce, and they said it's been a wonderful experience. And we invite people to kind of go to that area if they cannot go with the movable pots. Is kind of where the Plan Commission came down on it. So if you guys want to speak to EAB, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. It's really ironic or coincidental that while all of this has been going on July 24th, through the Wisconsin Examiner, a report came out, or an article came out about this very thing. Legislative Republicans introduced bill protecting the right to garden. And I'm going to read part of this article. Wisconsinites' ability to spend summers enjoying homegrown herbs, fruits, and vegetables could be codified into law under legislation proposed earlier this month by 2 Republican lawmakers. The Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Protection Act, co-authored by Senator Andre Jacques and Representative Shay Sortwell, would prevent local governments from passing or enforcing ordinances that require a permit for or prohibit someone from growing food on their own property. The draft bill is based on model legislation from the Institute for Justice, a libertarian advocacy organization that focuses on issues such as school choice, private property, and loosening economic restrictions. The organization has previously worked in Wisconsin, fighting lawsuits against state laws restricting people's ability to sell homemade baked and canned goods. Similar vegetable garden laws have already been enacted in Florida and Illinois. Growing our own food should be a basic human right, the bill's co-sponsorship memo states. However, heavy-handed regulators have used local zoning ordinances to explicitly ban home vegetable gardens or to put up unreasonable rules gardening what homeowners may grow and where they can plant their food. State law should encourage and protect, not limit, home vegetable gardens. And the draft legislation includes provisions that give local governments the ability to regulate the height of vegetable gardens, as well as the use of water or fertilizer, and control noxious weeds or invasive species. It leaves a door open for a local government to pass necessary health and safety regulations, Institute for Justice staff attorney Ari Bargel says. Governments can pass a law saying it can't be over a certain height, can't be within a certain distance to the road or sidewalk, but it can't expressly prohibit vegetable gardens. It's unclear how many municipalities around the state have ordinances prohibiting vegetable gardens. Earlier this year, the City Council of Two Rivers, which is in both of the bill authors' districts, updated the city's municipal code to create a pilot program allowing vegetable gardens in front yards. So that was July 24th. I have spoken to both Andre and to Shay, who, as I said, they're the ones who are authoring this bill, and they're pretty passionate about it. And I supplied them with our guidelines for the one that we used this year. We're right in line pretty much with what they're talking about. I guess what it boils down to is that, do we want to be, if this goes through all the motions and it gets passed, do we want to be on the leading edge of this and an example? Or do we want to be on the tail end and not have the protection of having something in place? And then we're going to have the problem. So I'm thinking that if we have something in place that also includes not just containers, because you can't grow everything in containers, but it stays the way it is right now, it's going to serve us better in the future, because we will have a program that the citizens can go by. We won't have a gray area as to what they can plant and where and all that. So I wholeheartedly stand behind this. I would love to see us extend this for one more year. I've already talked to people who were planning on participating this coming season, who are distressed that we won't give it another year. And like I've said in the past, after going through writing up the program, the proposal, and going through Plan Commission, and it came back, and we massaged it, and we worked very well with the Plan Commission. It takes a lot of time, and then it went to City Council. We had a discussion. Everybody seemed pretty darn happy with what we had as far as rules. By the time all that was done, it was very, very late for people to start planning. The people who are interested want to make this part of their landscape. They want to have the raised beds. They want it to look attractive. I mean, that is their home. And they're kind of upset that there's a possibility that we're taking this away. So I would suggest that we discuss this some more and take into consideration what our legislators are looking at, and see if we're going to be in line with that. And I would prefer not to see us on the ass end of this, quite honestly. So that's all I've got to say about that.
That's kind of your background from both Environmental Advisory and from the Plan Commission. Again, I would say that we have people, again, that even that have the permit still violate what we have in that permit. And again, that becomes a problem for, that's essentially a nuisance property.
And I can speak to that.
And go ahead.
When we started this program, I went out earlier in the season to see how the raised bed looked. We got pictures. I went out several times, and I looked at these two properties, and it looked great. And I figured, okay, well, I'm going to go back towards the end of the season to see how successful they were. I did not realize that the gal who got up with her family, there was a FUBAR, there was a total snafu. They planted corn. And that was the one thing we were all like, we don't want to see corn. We don't want to see corn. It was an oops. And like she said, she's not going to do that again. And we could always, in our guidelines, really make that obvious to people that it's a 3-foot height rule. And here's the thing, is when I talked to her, it was late last week, she called because she knew we were going to be voting on this tonight, and she was concerned. And she said, well, I've talked to Adam. There's been some complaints to other people. And what my question is, if there was a problem, why wasn't I notified? Why didn't anybody give me the opportunity to go out and work with these people? So if whoever was already aware of an issue, I think my phone was working. I would love to have gotten a call, an email, a text, anything. Evidently you knew about it.
But what?
About the corn problem.
I did?
That's what I was told. That she'd already talked to you.
Clearly you weren't on the conversation then. That's
I'm
that's
going by what she-
misspoken, right?
I'm
But
going
then you
by
should
what
have
she
came to me and
said.
asked me what the
I'm bringing
conversation
it up
was
now.
instead of accusing it in front of the audience, saying that I said that, because I
Well, I
didn't
don't
say
think
that.
she's gonna make it up.
I didn't say that there was problems with her corn. I said there were other people that had called in corn issues and pumpkins.
So that's
Okay.
when you should have
I
contacted
don't call,
me.
why would I call you? You call the people that are in charge. When we get complaints as citizens, we don't call council members, we call the people that are in charge of that.
But if you got the message,
Mhm.
let me know about it.
For what reason, Darla? It makes
So I
zero
can-
sense.
So I can address the issue and go out there.
What issue? You wouldn't have any authority.
The EAB was taking care of it for this.
Darla,
year.
it wasn't her property. Who said it was her property?
I'm not gonna get into a match with you.
Well, Darla, you don't have authority over the whole city.
That's not my point whatsoever.
Why would I call you then? That makes zero sense.
I chair the EAB.
Yeah,
This is an EAB initiative.
nuisance properties are EAB.
If it's a nuisance because somebody has a front yard vegetable garden that has corn in it or pumpkins or something like that, then it should come to us so we can.
No, that goes to the property authorities, which is our city. That's how it's always
Oh,
gone.
that's not what we had
Yes.
talked about before. I think
It's not a
that,
front yard garden though, Darla. They don't have a permit.
the gal who was here,
That's not the person in question.
that's the one I talked to.
That's fine, but that's not the complaint that I got was not for that property.
All right, we can talk about this more, but from what I was told, it was a conversation with you. We'll leave it at
Then
that.
you guys got the wrong conversation because there wasn't, and it was forwarded to Greg Buckley.
I'm just
So
going
it
by
was
what
not,
she
Greg,
told me.
it was at that property, it was on 42nd Street. So I don't know where this
I'd
girl
have to
lives,
look back at her address.
but it's not, she doesn't live on 42nd Street, 'cause it's not her address. I know it's not her address. I know the address.
Okay, I
'Cause
will-
I stopped by the property. It's a single male, so it can't be her. Therefore, you call the
Okay.
proper authorities, which I did.
I will talk to her again and
You go for it.
anyway, getting back on track.
Correct? That was not her property. Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will talk to her.
Yeah, please do, because then you can get the story straight before you start embarking on something
Well,
that's incorrect.
well, I apologize.
Thank you.
I have a
You
question.
know,
You throw me under the bus for something that didn't
I've been
happen.
thrown under the bus how many
Not by
times
me.
during my tenure on city council?
Not by me, I didn't do it. Yes, Jeff.
Darla, how many people participated in the pilot?
We
program?
had two. We had Corrine Weiss, who is on the EAB. And then we had the young family that was here tonight. So we
Okay.
had two. But judging by the number of people that I've talked to who have already started actually planning for this coming year, we're gonna have more people in the program. So, and like I said, by the time we got we finally got it through, it was pretty late in the season. People didn't know, they didn't have time to plan it out and to get everything planted.
A question for you. One of the complaints, was it about one of the? Okay, so you point to Darla as irrelevant because it wasn't even somebody involved in the program.
No, but in talking to the person on the phone that day, she said she also had planted corn. That's where I found out that she planted corn. Because I brought up the subject that somebody planted corn in their front yard, and then she said, I did.
But she didn't have a permit?
She has a permit for a front yard garden, which
Okay.
excludes corn.
Gotcha, okay.
And that was, and to me, it was like the one thing that everybody was concerned about, and that's what happened. It's not gonna happen again. We can make it more crystal clear in our guidelines. And I don't know what more to say, you know. This is what Shay and Andre are talking about too, is people should have the ability to feed their families. I've got an email from Shay and I've got one from Andre. But basically, in a nutshell, Shay supports the idea and believes that growing your own food is a basic right. And Andre says that there's a lot of interest in this issue. To pursue a quality gardening space in residential setting throughout our area, and I hope both of our proposals can expand the possibility. So that's from our legislators.
Tracy.
So there were complaints about people growing stuff in their front yard and they weren't part of the program. And that's considered nuisance then.
That would be a nuisance under our ordinance, correct?
That would get reported to.
Or it might very well be cited under the zoning ordinance because it would be engaging in a use that isn't permitted. Not to go bureaucrat on you, but it's my job. Yeah, it'd probably more likely be cited as because it isn't a nuisance in the backyard. It's, why is it a problem in the front yard? Because zoning doesn't presently allow for produce gardening in the front yard.
Bonnie.
How come nobody wants to go to the cemetery and plant their garden?
I don't understand that because, I mean, it is full. We have a lot of
Oh, it is
participants
full?
there.
There's a lot more there than there are in front yards, not to be.
But
it's-
there's room to expand that program quite a bit. And there's a lot of sun there. A lot of people do use the cemetery to grow those gardens.
Then why would anybody want to get in their car and go out to the garden and get dirty when you can do it in your own yard and place where you're paying taxes on it? So I don't know, I'd put a program. Actually, I don't even think we should have restrictions on anything except for the height for anything. If you're gonna grow pumpkins in your front yard, go ahead and grow pumpkins. You pay the taxes.
But you know what we came up with though? It's a nice meeting in the middle because you still want to take your neighborhood into consideration. You should be able to do with your property, especially for growing produce to feed your family, but do it in a way that kind of still has a traditional feel that goes along with the rest of the neighborhood. It's only in fairness to those around you. So there's ways to be able to grow your produce that isn't, just rows and rows right in the lawn, We went with the raised beds because basically that helps with containing runoff. It's more attractive. Runoff was the biggest thing. And then but it was do that or have containers, but containers can only handle so much as far as what kind of plant it is. So, like I said, I mean, I think what we came up with after a lot of work with Plan Commission and just everybody, I think we came up with a really good pilot program. And what we're asking for is that it be extended one more year to see if this can be successful or not. I would love to be able to give it one more try. And like I said, be on the forefront of this for legislation. It'll just set us in a very, very good position.
Tracy.
One last. Any new program that you establish is going to have bugs in it. No pun intended, but this is an opportunity for us to just do it one more year and either it'll work or it won't based on what we have so far. We should be able to make adjustments. And so, I don't have a problem with it doing it one more year. I can't see it exploding into where everybody's going to be running into one and put in a front yard garden. But those that want to, they have to live by the rules. And it sounds like we have a family that did it this year that is enthused enough that they want to participate. And I'm really big on citizen committees because this isn't just us. This is everybody. And if everybody wants to, participate, then they should be able to.
See, that I would disagree. I think it's too much of a nuisance. It is staff time. Matt had reported that it has taken up a lot more staff time than anticipated going into these front yard gardens. And it's not always fair to your neighbor. And I know Jeff wants to allow them to plant anything they want wherever they want. But in all fairness, how is that fair to a neighbor? They don't have the right to your front yard. I get it. But it's property value. It's a curb appeal to when you want to sell your house, you don't really put a fence around your front yard. You can put a fence around your backyard. So if you want to grow corn and obnoxious stuff and all this, fine, they can put up a fence and block it, but that's pretty tough to do in the front yard, and that's where it becomes a problem. Jeff?
No, I talked to quite a few people about this whole front yard garden thing, and a lot of the only negatives that I got about it, everything was way too restrictive. And as far as having them, it's rare that I agree with Darla, but I agree with Darla on this one. I think we should keep it. Yeah. And you know, of course, having whatever you want out there, but yet you're still allowed to have 5 vehicles parked on your lawn and wherever you want, and that's okay.
You cannot park on your lawn.
That would be an ordinance
That would be an
violation.
ordinance violation. You cannot park on your
You know what I
lawn.
mean? You can still have the park on your property.
Driveway.
And they don't have to be running,
Driveway.
they can be.
They do have, they have to be licensed, yes.
And
Right.
roadworthy.
But they don't need to be running.
work, road working.
Right.
Cannot just park it there, no.
But they still, it happens
If
all
you-
the time.
Um,
'Cause I know
those
I
have
brought
to
it
be
up a lot
called
of
in.
times.
Those have to be
I brought
called
up
in.
more car issues than I have garden issues. So,
Is Matt here?
That's here.
What kind of extra, oh, okay. What kind of extra burden did it add on to Public Works Engineering that I wasn't aware of?
While the program was being developed, our administrative assistant, Sue, spent a lot of time trying to get it onto the website, taking a lot of calls and trying to coordinate the effort in putting it together. So probably 10, 15 hours a week through the month of May, June, and into July was spent with EAB's front yard gardening. And originally, it was supposed to have been very little staff time and then administered by the EAB staff, so.
So, and this was when we were first getting it off the ground, so that is gonna take more time. Do you anticipate that to be the same for this coming year, that it would involve that much time?
Since the permitting process was going through Public Works, which was not fully anticipated, that amount of time, no, but there will still be some time allocated. And ultimately, it depends on the response of participation.
Thank you.
So do we create our own motion or do we send this back to Plan Commission if it gets voted down to
Yes, I would-
carry out?
I would suggest if the council wanted to affirm the Plan Commission's recommendation and not extend the program, that would be a motion that would basically put things to an end. If the council wishes to see a zoning amendment back in front of it to extend the program as requested by the EAB, Jack, I don't know that we need to send it back to Plan Commission because they've already made a recommendation on it. The council could direct that we didn't bring an ordinance tonight. We just brought this as a policy matter. So the alternative, if majority of the council wishes to pursue continuing the program, would be direction to staff to bring an ordinance amendment. Yeah. Yeah. And if I could, this is a great policy debate. Stick my neck out here a little. It'd be great if there's a lot of interest in the community. I think just my observation, many years of listening to public input and regarding some of it, it's one thing to say, dang it, the city won't let me do this, and I think I ought to be able to do it. It's another thing to truly want to put the sweat, equity, and investment of dollars into a front yard garden. And I'm not sure this one has crossed the line from, dang it all, since you're asking my opinion, here it is, versus I'm really going to do it. A second year might bear that out. Maybe it won't. And Darla wasn't saying this, but don't let anyone leave here with the misapprehension that our state reps who are just sponsoring a bill, it ain't on the floor yet, would so restrict that what you're talking about tonight, which is solely the restriction on gardens in front yards and residential areas, would be restricted by that bill. I mean, Shea made fairly clear he didn't think they'd get to that level of detail. It was more the inherent right to use your property in some way. So I guess I would just throw that out there. They aren't necessarily saying you got to let people have gardens in their front yards.
Right.
And if they do, I would hope you as council would say, thank you, mind your own business on this, because frankly, you get elected by locals, and I think you can fashion, like you're doing tonight, better solutions than can get fashioned in Madison. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I think we should try it again next month, next year, and take care of the problems. If EAB is gonna take care of the permitting, sounded like a lot of.
But I think next
I
year,
think
the
we
staff
should,
time will be
you
so big.
know, whatever problems were created this year, those will be taken care of. But if that doesn't work, then
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
if that doesn't work, then forget it, you know. We should listen to Plan Commission too, but
That's what I thought
I
this,
think we should try it. We should try it again.
that's what I thought this was for, was that this was the year of the pilot program, but maybe it ought to be kicked to Plan Commission. That's up to whoever makes the motion. That is a citizen body. Like Tracy said, she values the input of citizen committees. That is a citizen committee that ultimately recommends this, but that motion is not up to me. It is up to somebody that wishes to make a motion, because there is nothing on our agenda that says what the motion should be, so it is at our discretion.
Just a question, what does the ordinance say currently? Does it expire on a given date, as I recall?
It does.
And what is that date?
In the 2023.
I think we made it the end of the calendar year, but odds are your garden's gonna be pretty rigid by then.
Okay, well,
Frozen.
we don't have we don't have an ordinance in front of us now. Any amendment to a zoning ordinance would require Class 2 notice and a public hearing. So I'm not sure that you can do all that much at this time. You can basically, elect to let the ordinance continue in effect and then expire by its terms at the end of the year. You can ask for preparation of an ordinance extending the time period. But, there's nothing in front of you right now, I guess, is what I'm saying. Apparently, the commission and the board and the city are looking for some sort of guidance as to how to proceed at this point.
So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna either be saying what Plan Commission voted on to let this thing expire at the end of the year and that be done. We'll be voting either on that. We can send it back to the Plan Commission, and/or we can advise staff to work on an ordinance for next year, because obviously we can't do that at this time. That ordinance would probably start with Plan Commission anyway, so.
Well, it's like I say, I think that's the norm. It already effectively has been, this question was directly in front of the Plan Commission last month, and by a 5-1 vote, they said, we don't recommend it, but the council could always direct it back there. Understand the next action of council on this, if you want to see that ordinance, wouldn't be to vote on the ordinance, but it would be to set a public hearing, because as Jack noted, you have to have Class 2 notice and a public hearing on any zoning code amendment. Or if you want to put a stake in it, and I'm not hearing that so far, if you want to put an end to it, right, no action or affirming the intent to let it expire per Plan Commission is an option.
I keep hearing Plan Commission, there was also a recommendation from the EAB.
I think they both, in fairness, they've both been mentioned. One has a statutory role. We couldn't, council couldn't avoid Plan Commission if they wanted to on this one.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the only distinction.
If it goes back to Plan Commission, my gut feeling is that it's not going to change. So it just seems like it's just I think that it should stay with city council. Let's just make the decision.
Jeff?
Jack, can we make a motion to extend the current ordinance for 1 year?
You don't have that ordinance in front of you at this time.
Okay.
That would be a modification, an amendment to the zoning ordinance. You need that notice in a hearing.
Can we
to
table it
accomplish
until
that.
that is done?
We don't have to do anything. There's no
Yeah, you really
motion,
don't
there's
don't
nothing.
have to.
This is just council discretion, so we don't have to do anything.
as I say, you could ask staff to prepare an ordinance extending the time period. You could certainly do that. And you could vote on that at this time, but you're not changing the ordinance.
I think that would probably save everybody the most amount of time doing it that way. Other than going to committee again, public hearings. Let's just pass this off as quick as we can so we can vote on it, on a new ordinance, and yes or no. It's done.
But again, I think, and I don't think Jack disagreed, we've met the statutory requirement for the Plan Commission's advisory input on such an extension because we put this issue in front of them. You can't avoid the public hearing because
No, you can't.
that's the statutory requirement. It would also, a shortened timetable would allow for more advanced marketing time and not too much of a reach. If somebody wants to rip their yard up this year and put a raised bed in, they could do the prep work this fall. And that wasn't pejorative. It's, create a raised bed in their front yard. It'd give them some more time.
That'd be appreciated.
Yeah.
Connie.
I don't recommend it.
Well, can you just find out how many people agree with the Plan Commission and how many people agree with the environmental?
We can certainly
I mean,
take that
just
as
to
a show
give
of
an
hands.
idea. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So if you agree with EAB, go ahead and raise your hand. EAB. Okay. And if you agree with the Plan Commission, we got the two that are right there.
I love you.
That's all right. It's democracy at work.
He doesn't love me right now.
Sure I do.
So
Not
then,
happy, but
with that as background, staff still needs direction on what the heck we're going to do. I mean, I can kind of divine from that where you're headed, but do you wish then for staff to prepare an ordinance, a zoning code amendment, bring it back to council so you can set a hearing on it?
yes.
Probably hold the hearing in early October.
Yes. Why don't we make a motion to do that? Okay. That is Jeff making that motion, second by Bill. Any further council discussion on having a hearing to change the zoning to allow for front yard gardens? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. And I changed that on you, Amanda. I'm sorry. Wasn't supposed to be, but we got a little crazy with this one, so roll call vote, Amanda.
Tim Petrie, Bonnie Shimalunas,
What are we voting on?
To make a
Oh,
public
sorry.
hearing
Oh, okay, never mind.
for the,
Yeah,
to
I
change the
just-
zoning.
Yes, I.
Scott Steckmeister,
Aye.
Adam Mahusky,
No.
Jeff Delkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
All right, thank you for that discussion. On to G. Purchase of new ADA compliant voting machines from existing 2023 capital budget. Recommended action is for information only. Do you have this one, Amanda?
Yes.
All right.
So a few months ago when we discussed central count, I did bring up that the Elections Commission did have that grant for ADA voting machines. After speaking with the county clerk, it seems that majority of the county is switching to the new express vote ADA machines, which in turn will cause issues with the software used in tabulators and our current out-of-date machines. Along with that, our machines will not be supported possibly towards the end of 2024. And as you know, with the upcoming 4 possible elections, there is the discrepancy of if we could get the machines on time or not. So it was recommended from the county clerk that we did bring this forward to purchase these machines. And I did speak with ES&S on it. They do have them in stock right now, but as many municipalities are upgrading because it is going to be required in the upcoming years from the Elections Commission, that they might be out of stock soon. So I did speak with Greg on this, that it's probably now to do it. We do get $750 back from the Elections Commission right now to help offset the purchase of these machines. But they're a lot more user-friendly than our current ones. And from other municipalities that do have them, they're purchasing additional ones just because so many of their normal voters love these machines because you cannot possibly screw up your ballots. So
Again, it's not like we have $9,000 of fluff sloshing around in our city hall capital budget, but we did have money in there for some deferrable maintenance replacement items, some carpet replacement in high wear areas throughout the building. That 30-year-old carpet will be 31 years old. But once again, thank you to our state elections system, I'll say, and the racket of technology, which makes things obsolete and ends support. That sounded very cynical, but in the interest of accessible voting places as well, we don't have much choice on this. We need for our ballots to be compatible with the ballots used countywide. And, but rather than amend the budget, we will defer some city hall items. We're still getting the big things done, like the HVAC system, looking at the pillars out front, enough money for some Sally Port improvements in the PD Sally Port out here that are very much needed. We'll make it work. Not happy about it.
No.
Nope.
And that $750 that the Wisconsin Election Commissions is offering, that's ridiculous. What is $750 in a course of $9,000? That's a slap in the face.
Are we a 1,500 off 9,000
It's pretty much here you go away.
$750
per unit?
Per municipality.
Yes.
We've spent a lot of money on elections here in the last couple of years for
That ain't
a
a good-
lot of new equipment.
Yeah, that's the same state that has $4 billion rattling around, but,
Yeah, they could come up with a little bit more if they want to change all this crap. But yes, we will forego, I guess, carpeting. Who needs carpeting?
so FYI, I just shared it because I knew it would make you happy.
Yeah,
It
real
would make
happy.
you happy.
I'm happy you found the money within the budget because I don't like spending more money, but yes. So, yes,
Does that mean we should probably make a motion to?
in order to discuss it, yes, we should do that.
Yeah, we don't need council authorization to make the expense unless you would object to it and want to
See.
thwart it.
Okay,
But if
that's
you want
what
to
I'm-
discuss it, a motion.
Well, we should have a motion because it's not within our spending. It's not within our budget. I mean, the money's there, but I don't think we authorize this at budget
Council
time.
we don't go spend money willy-nilly. The council adopts a budget as a capital line item specific to City Hall. That's the level that you adopt it at.
Is anyone objecting to this? Then we don't need it, yes.
Yes, but we have to do it, so.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
good.
Yep,
Yeah,
just
no, thank
part
you.
of the realities we face. If you would, we can return now to item 10A.
Yes, I was just gonna say that we're gonna go back to A, which is the recap. A resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $526,696 for water system revenue bonds, series 2023, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto. The Safe Drinking Water Loan Program Fund for 2023 projects. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance that Greg is passing along. That is the resolution. Are you gonna read that, or what do you want to do there? Okay.
Just for background, as council members are aware, the city typically each year does borrowings from the state's environmental loan programs administered by DNR and the Department of Administration. They offer great long-term interest rates for water and sewer infrastructure work. They typically, for communities like Two Rivers that meet certain need criteria, include an element of principal forgiveness, which is, we're giving you this much money, but only X amount of it is loan. So this is the borrowing associated with the water main work on Lincoln Avenue. I apologize, I got excited earlier and thought, dang it, we didn't include the resolution. You've got the whole set of closing documents. I'm sure you found that interesting reading, but we didn't include the resolution. Then I hastily forwarded an email from our bond counsel to Elizabeth, our community development director, said, run copies, and son of a gun, it's the resolution that I sent her is the one that'll be on your next agenda, which is for clean water fund borrowing for the sewer side. In the process, I depleted all the toner in the big copier and things got complicated from there. That's how it goes on the Monday after a holiday weekend. So basically, though, this is for financing a total of, bear with me, $658,371 associated with the water main work on Lincoln Street. The state local financial assistance agreement that's referenced in the resolution, and I'll point that out to you, provides that there's $131,675 in principal forgiveness. So at the end of the day, what the city will be required to repay is the 526,696 that is shown on your agenda and in the resolution. That is 20-year financing, and it's at a fixed rate of 2.154%. Heck of a deal, courtesy of all of us as federal taxpayers. So the resolution in front of you, which is pretty long, basically recites, identifies resolutions by which the council has authorized previous water system borrowings, generally revenue bonds, to be repaid out of water system revenues. Each of those existing borrowings is identified in the preamble to this resolution, the first page and a quarter of whereases. It identifies a project, which was the Lincoln Street project, which we applied for funding assistance through DNR and the Safe Drinking Water Program. It notes that municipalities can provide for purchasing, acquiring. I'm on the fourth whereas on page 2. Basically, cities can borrow money to purchase, acquire, construct, extend, etc., public utility facilities. That it's desirable to do so. It goes on to define various terms as used in the agreement. I'm not going to go at that for too long of a time. Authorization of the bonds over on page 5. Authorization of the bonds and financial assistance agreement. You're authorizing the borrowing of up to $526,696, and everything will be done in accordance with the financial assistance agreement, which this also authorizes the city manager and city clerk to sign with the state. That's where that $131,675 in principal forgiveness comes in as well. Section 3 on page 5 states the term of the bonds. Again, 2.145% annually, 20-year borrowing. There's an attachment that lays out the amortization schedule for the bonds. There's reference to the form of the bonds. That's all dictated by the state and reviewed by bond counsel. Page 6, security for the bonds. These aren't general obligation bonds for which the council pledges unlimited tax obligation, those GO bonds we use for things like streets and vehicles and fire trucks. This affirms that these are revenue bonds that will be paid with revenues of the systems pledged to debt service for the water system. Section 6 identifies the various funds and accounts that the city is required to maintain for the water utility. Section 7 talks about where the revenue or the money from the bonds will be used. Goes on to talk about deposits and investments, etc. So that is the resolution. We don't have an option of refinancing these. They'll run for the full 20 years, but odds are you're not going to get to a point where there's a better deal than 2.145%. And we are scheduled to close on this on September 27, because if our finance director were here tonight, he'd tell you, per prior authorization of council, we've spent just about all this money. The water main is in the ground. That's been floated by our water utility. So this will reimburse, to a large measure, costs already incurred by the city. So that's a summary of the resolution. Again, with apologies that was omitted from your package.
All right, looking for a motion on this resolution. I'll make that motion.
Jeff, seconded by Bonnie. Council discussion. See none, it is a resolution, so roll call vote. Amanda?
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. Bonnie Shimelunus.
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister.
Aye. All right. For information.
Only, you got that, Greg?
Yep, and by the way, like I said, next meeting we'll have back in front of you, or we'll have in front of you, a borrowing for the sewer piece, the water fund borrowing. You know what's part of those
Resolution's copied, so that's good.
You're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we're ahead of schedule on that one. Information only, just reminders of upcoming council meetings. The next regular meeting on Monday, September 18, the work session on September 25th. Among other items on the next agenda, there's that borrowing from the Clean Water Fund that I mentioned. We will have as our guests representatives the Two Rivers Family Swim Center regarding their interest in possible city assistance for an upgraded facility. And we will have back in front of the council representatives of the board for the Blue Heron Condo Association who appeared at the July work session to talk about their requests relative to the private streets and private utility infrastructure at that facility. We will have a resolution in front of the council from just previewing it, but consistent with what we talked about in July, authorizing an agreement for flushing of the sewer mains, private sewer mains and the private water mains, if there's an agreement like we have with the other condo associations, and possibly offering leaf collection occur within the limits of the condo association. The rest of it, obviously, at council's discretion, but you're not going to have a staff recommendation that has the city taking over any private infrastructure, in case you missed that the first time around. But we look forward to those discussions at the meeting on the 18th.
Okay.
All of that, no closed session needed tonight.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Seconded by Darla. Council discussion. Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you and good night.